What kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness, starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
And welcome to the Recovery Report Live, Global Pro's deep dive into relevant business and insurance topics, providing you actionable takeaways and valuable insights. We aim to update, educate, and inform you weekly. I'm Dan Odess, president of Global Pro, where we manage risk to recovery. For more than a decade, we have represented thousands of businesses and community associations in the placement of insurance and the recovery from over $1 billion in damages. We are your source for insurance news you can use. In last week's episode of the Recovery Report Live, we discussed challenges facing businesses today, a strategy forward towards finding a new way to measure payoff, a change in your perspective. This week, I want to highlight our challenges, our newest members, and our plan for the future. The insurance services business is generally adverse to changes in the market. When the economy is down, people focus more on what they have and are spending. This focus shifts when the economy is up. Their attention seems to drift away from risk and towards opportunity they have, with the tendency to acquire more in different assets. They start to care more about the upside and care less about the possibility that it may not work. The greatest challenges for us during this pandemic have been anticipating the bottom and when that shift will occur. Staying in front of our clients and evaluating their risk is top priority. Loss and damage occur when we least expect it, even with the best plan in place. Risk of loss and damage doesn't take the weekends off, it doesn't sleep, and it certainly doesn't care that it's the holiday weekend or even that you are on the vacation. Therefore, we have to be ready at all times. We need to build resilient businesses. However, the pandemic makes access to places of business, occupied units, and travel difficult and at times slow. Major advancements in our own technology and investments in our process have certainly given us a leg up on risk and our competitors. However, since we can't get in a room and shake hands or attend typical networking events, telling our story at a distance has become increasingly more important. We need our clients to know about our value proposition and proprietary process. We need our clients to know about the Global Pro difference. Delivering that message has been increasingly more challenging and different for us, like this broadcast. While we had planned to launch a webinar and podcast series in late 2019, we never knew that its launch would coincide with one of the worst pandemics and economic downturns in history. A combination of events that forced all of us to consume information from the comfort of our homes. No lunches, dinners, or casual coffees to ponder the future and discuss strategy. To execute on our plan, we invested in talent. When businesses were laying off staff or furloughing entire departments, we went on the hunt for our newest team members, Rena, Susanna, and Sasha. Under the direction of Matt Sangsering, Vice President of Global Pro, our marketing team has set high expectations and formulated new goals. We had already empowered managers and advisors through education, but now we needed to reach a broader audience. Rena Salarzano, Global Pro Marketing Director, works day to day with Susanna Ricon, graphic designer, and Sasha Peñocos, video producer. They have a combined over 20 years of experience working for global brands and campaigns. We are building a bright future here, and we are excited to have them on board with us. Our guest joining us today knows a lot about building for the future and resiliency. He has fought adversity in our communities and abroad for years. His biography is long, with many highlights to pick from. In 2012, he was elected to the Florida Senate, where he served until 2016. In 2017, he was hired as the political director of the New Florida Majority. In this capacity, he worked to bring political education and awareness to underserved and often marginalized communities. Recently, he teamed up with his sister to relaunch their family business with the mission, vision, and promise to provide first-class consulting to political campaigns, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. His consulting business plays an important role in helping their clients build diverse leadership teams and enhance their overall organizational structure. Our esteemed guest is co-founder and CEO of DLE Consulting Firm, which is committed to making a positive social impact through its work with clients and in the way they run their company. Welcome to the Recovery Report Live, Senator Dwight Bullard.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Happy to be here.
Well, thanks. We're super happy to have you with us. It's such an immense opportunity for us, and we're hoping to get into all of our questions that we have for you today. I'd like to get right into your recent endeavor and learn more about how you're helping your business's community. So first question, what does it mean to you to relaunch your family business?
Well, it means everything. My sister and I have been around and had two phenomenal role models in our parents who we watched do a number of different things, everything from education consulting, and then delving into politics, both of them having been elected to the state house, and my mother elected to the state senate. In the early 90s, my father launched DLE Consulting really as a way to strategize around electoral campaigns, let people know kind of the unique strategies that were successful in helping to get my mom elected and ultimately him elected. And then it morphed into sort of like a quasi lobbying firm when my mom, during my mom's tenure outside of the legislature, where she wanted to help, secure affordable housing resources and funds for nonprofits as well. So for my sister and I, this is just an opportunity to really build on that legacy. And we're so excited that, our parents, in essence, gifted us this opportunity, right? You have this small business that kind of has been there for us to kind of take over when and if we felt ready to do so. And I think in this moment in time, I think we've each been relatively successful, I would say, in our own respective spaces. And so much like the old 80s cartoon Voltron, we're combining those forces to do something great.
I love the analogy, and full disclosure, obviously I've known you and your family for quite some time, and so to have you on today definitely means a lot, and we're and really excited to see you launch this new business, and especially working with your sister. So let's talk a little about your sister. How do you and your sister Edwina split your roles? Because you both have the same title. I've noticed that, which I love. I appreciate that. Co-owner and co-CEO. How is it like splitting the stage with your sister? I know she's a dynamic person herself, and you've had those years. Yeah.
She is a dynamic person, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me telling folks that we've kind of been splitting things for a long time. She was actually born on my 7th birthday. So we have the same exact birth date. So we've been sharing birthday cakes, we've been sharing parties, we've been sharing days since 1984. And so we are definitely pros at the sharing space. And what I love about our relationship is that we both bring unique skill sets to the conversation. She has been off doing development work for nonprofits. She's been working in higher education. I've been working in secondary education, working in politics. And so the kind of unique experiences that we both have really does bring a different flavor to the relaunching of this business. And so we're excited to share that with the world.
So let's transition from that. It's a good pivot. Let's talk about that business because it is unique. I thank you for sharing the information that you did before the broadcast about it. Obviously did some catching up on you and where you've not. I don't know how many places you've been, but yeah, obviously we talked a little earlier, not so many, but where you figuratively have been and what you've been working on. Tell us about your ideal client. What does DLE stand for, and what are your ideal client?
Great. So DLE is actually the first initials of all of our family members. So Dwight, Larcenia, Edward, Edwina, DLE Consulting, and it's really just that. What we want to bring is kind of a family-oriented flavor to the business climate. And what we mean by that is that we find that businesses, organizations, campaigns are most successful when they are reflective of the community that they're trying to be a part of. Embedding yourself, becoming part of the tapestry and the framework of community. And even in the virtual global space, you're finding that those organizations that are creating environments that feel tangible, that feel real, for people are the ones that are thriving even in this moment. Just a welcoming environment and treating as such. So what we offer in that is kind of an analysis and critique of where your business is, where are the your best practices, but also where are some areas that you may be deficient in, or blind spots that may exist in the space. We live in an environment where social justice, racial justice is at the forefront. So being able to talk to a business, be very candid about maybe some of the blind spots that you may have as it relates to race, gender, or transparency along those lines is something that we definitely want to bring to the table. Looking at my sister's work, for instance, in working with organizations like the American Heart Association or the American Cancer Society, she understands the necessity of people wanting to give to those organizations, even though they are large brands. You have people that most of their charitable giving comes from a place where they're not directly impacted by heart or cancer, right? These are people who may not be feeding into these businesses. What I've learned in my pathway, especially working with young adults in the high school setting, and then working with folks in the political environment, is that you may not be able to agree, 100% of the time, but the areas that you can work on and be most effective in are those where you can find agreements, right? A commonality, a connection between yourself and the other person, even if you don't share necessarily the 100% of the same values. And so we want to be able to bring that kind of attitude to your business and help you understand how to cultivate that in your place of work.
No, it's very interesting, and obviously in today's time, there definitely needs to be more of that, and certainly appreciate everything, and certainly an interesting process. I think that's what you described there, and how you guys are different in approaching this. Talk to me a little about your value proposition for small businesses. How does this translate for them to their bottom line, and how are you helping them grow those businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say we always, it's been very cliche around what diversity means or should mean for a business. What that's translated to, unfortunately, is oftentimes more like window dressing. And it's to have somebody here or to place a person there and be able to say, well, this person is a part of our company. But the question is that company doing everything it can to cultivate and bring in a diverse clientele, right? What is it that you may be missing in your pitch that isn't being received by the larger community? And we want to be able to kind of help businesses work through that. What diversity really means is creating a diverse space and environment that not only can your business thrive in, but that the community feels seen and understood and reflected in that business. And so that's the bridge that we're trying to build through our consultancy.
It totally makes sense. And again, I think it's admirable that you guys are stepping up doing this. You have a lot of connections, obviously, in Capitol Hill and in our local communities. Your whole family's been enormous pillars in our community here in South Florida. So definitely applaud your efforts. We got to talk a little before we got on about the pandemic and some of the things we're seeing in our local communities regarding how people are doing business different. In your opinion, what do businesses need now during the pandemic that they may not have needed before, and how can DLE help them realize that?
In this current moment, and this predates the pandemic, but especially in this, is businesses are really trying to figure out how to be the best corporate citizen that they can be, right? Meaning that you're talking about reaching out in terms of philanthropy, trying to figure out how they can connect with folks in the nonprofit space to have a greater, more global impact. Again, going back to the question of diversity, what does that look like in this era? Are we considering the great ideas that other folks are bringing to the table in terms of creating greater, again, internal and external diversity for our businesses. So as people are kind of going through the kind of control, alt, delete, restart, right? Like figuring out how to go through this period of maybe downsizing in order to scale back up. That's what you're trying to capture. I mean, a prime example would be, you look at a Jeff Bezos and Amazon. When he's a Miami guy, he went to Miami Palmetto, right? And so when he starts this idea of shipping books on the internet, people sort of scoffed at the idea. But now when you're looking at the kind of global impact of Amazon in this moment, you're talking about somebody who understood the scalability of something that for people kind of looking at it from, a 1990s vantage point didn't see the possibilities of. And so we're hoping that businesses understand that 20, 30, 40-year longevity that they're hoping for has everything to do with not just thinking about the now, but definitely looking towards the future.
So thinking about the future, and as an experienced senator, you know that a lot of these changes that you are looking for or expecting of businesses, a lot of it has to do with laws and legislation and things that are being proposed and looking to the future. Is there any proposed legislation that will positively or negatively impact businesses trying to crawl out of this economic downturn that our guests should be looking for or watching for?
Well, what I've seen, and I appreciate folks like the Miami Foundation, the Knight Foundation, and others putting together these equity funds. And these equity funds that they're putting together aren't just for the sustainability of business, but they really want businesses, again, to kind of adopt kind of a more global and greater idea. How to be a better corporate citizen is kind of how these nonprofit givers or nonprofit organizations that are creating these funds for giving to for-profit and nonprofit entities. They're really looking at what is the impact of your business or your nonprofit on the greater good. And if you can't give a tangible explanation as to why, then you may not be able to get those resources. So it's really forcing businesses to think through what their business model looks like and how is it truly positively impacting the greater society. On the legislative side, what you need is an ease in some of the regulatory authority. And I know people talk about that all the time, but the challenge that I always saw at the state legislative level was that 75% of our small businesses were, relatively mom and pop, meaning 25 employees or less. But a lot of the legislation was always geared towards larger corporate entities. When you think about the Disneys of the world, or the Carnival Cruise Lines of the world, or the Burger Kings of the world. And not to say that they aren't important, but again, if 75% of your economy is based on businesses of 25 employees or less, there has to be some specific scalpel targeted legislation that looks to help expand those small businesses, whether it be through an expansion of grant programs, expansion of short-term low-interest loan programs that again encapsulate those true small businesses, and not some of the small businesses that get covered by the federal legislation that says if you have 250 employees or less, that you're a small business. When I say small business, I mean real small businesses.
No, and it all makes sense. The part of your organization is that part of what your focus of the company is not only on businesses, though, from my understanding, is also on nonprofit organizations. How do you see how this pandemic has affected nonprofit organizations?
Yeah, so nonprofits, and that is something that's near and dear to my heart because I work for a nonprofit. Nonprofits have been impacted in different ways. And the reason I hesitate to say negatively or positively, it's really the question of what line of business that you're in terms of your nonprofit. Kind of like the overarching challenge with nonprofits, especially in 2020, using that as a year, is that nonprofits tend to see their donations fall in presidential election years. That's always kind of been the thing. You layer on top of that a global pandemic. And so now nonprofits have had to become very creative on how they address their critical mission or the need that they have for community. And so using the nonprofit I work with as an example, we do electoral work, and we want to kind of focus on that mission, but we also saw that the marginalized communities that we were trying to impact were in need of things like food, emergency shelter, access to testing. And so one of the pivots that we had to make was to address some of those critical needs that those particular nonprofits, those particular communities really needed addressed. And so what I've been seeing among the nonprofit sector is just that, the ability to adjust and be as nimble as possible, which is oftentimes counter to what we think about with nonprofits. We think about kind of the rigidity, the focus on mission, but those that are going to survive this pandemic have been able to adjust their mission to meet the needs of the moment while never taking their eye off the longer term prize. And that's something that I've seen, and a trend line that I hope other nonprofits will take on as well.
And it's a great point, because in our focus in the introduction to today's recovery report, I talked about shifting and how people need to shift the focus, and when during these tough economic times, and then when things kind of rebound, how that focus changes. And in order to survive, businesses need to do that, just like nonprofits should be doing it. So definitely a great point. So I want to give you the opportunity. How can our audience find out more information about DLE Consulting Group?
Well, DLE Consulting Group, you can reach out to us at dleconsultinggroup@gmail.com. Just to give you a personal idea, you're either going to be responded to by my sister or myself, depending upon the needs. And what we want to kind of walk through with the business or nonprofit that reaches out to us is, where do you see yourself now, and then where do you see yourself in the future? Because we want to be able to help catapult you and move you in the direction that you want to go based on the skill set that we have. We'll also be launching our website, around the holiday season, so folks can kind of get a clear view as to what conceptually we can offer you as a business or nonprofit. But in the meantime and in between time, we want to have that conversation. So again, DLE Consulting Group @gmail.com. Allow us to kind of, talk with you and see where you want to go, what direction you want to go, and how we can be helpful in getting you there.
Well, all great advice, and I appreciate the conversation today, Senator. It's been just definitely, I learned a few things, and I hope our audience does as well. So huge thanks again, Senator, and to all of our attendees that tuned in this week. Go online at getglobalpro.com, check out our website, click the resource section to read and download important information you need to be prepared. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch today's broadcast, and like us, follow us, and engage us on all of our social media platforms. We love to connect with our clients and communities, so call us anytime or shoot us an email. Remember to tune in next week. We will sit down with Rena, our very own Rena, to discuss our upcoming campaign that I'm super excited about. Global Pro continues its work in the community by teaming up with the local restaurant industry. Again, thank you to the Senator and all of our attendees for tuning in this week on the Recovery Report Live.